girls on film. Well, that's how you could definitely describe Ahsoka. And we all know that Kathleen Kennedy thinks the Force is female, but I'm really surprised to see Dave Filoni drink the pink Kool-Aid as well. But wait a minute, isn't pink Kool-Aid all the rage these days, right? Well, what makes Greta Gerwig's Barbie so brilliant is that it's Barbie and Ken. And Ahsoka ain't got no Ken, even though there's a clear, obvious Ken staring us right in the face. And that's missing Jedi Ezra Bridger. Ooh, will these ladies find Ezra? I think they will, because they cast Amon Esfandi in the role, and he already makes a brief hologram appearance, not only in the trailer, as you've seen, but in episode 1. So we know he's coming back. So the obvious fix here would be to have one of the Ahsoka storylines, of which there are many, following Ezra, wherever he is. And then they all meet at the end, right? To bring some much needed male energy to this show. Also, where's Zeb? Right? They even did a great job bringing him into live action in Mando. Now, I know he would be hella expensive to do beyond a cameo, but I mean, he's really missed. They need more male characters, and are we doing Rebels Season 5 or not? It's really weird that he's not there, considering he's part of the original team and he's still around. And we know we can do him in live action. He's staring us right in the face on the mural that they've brought over from the Rebels show. Now, don't get me wrong. I actually really love these female characters. They're all alphas, and they're all wearing the best activewear, women's activewear I've ever seen. I'm like, where are you ladies shopping? You look fantastic. Oh, I love it. But I want to see strong female characters succeed. I want this show to be successful, or it's just, another strike against this stuff, which is very frustrating. We want representation to work, and the way representation works is when it's successful. Also, I don't like seeing female characters, especially such good ones, shortchanged by being relegated to what seems like some kind of Star Wars Women's League instead of being part of the main event. Right? It's like, welcome to Star Wars Women. And you're like, why do we have to have our own section? Why can't we just be in the section with everybody else? So yes, I've seen the first 2 episodes of Ahsoka, and I can only speak for the first 2 episodes. Maybe a bunch of dudes, maybe it starts, to borrow another song, Raining Men in episode 3. So this is also a non-spoiler review, and I'm going to discuss my mixed feelings about the show. But I'll be breaking down each of the episodes as they drop, which is now on Tuesday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So be sure to come back tonight for my breakdown of episodes 1 and 2. Now, that is not just an evening drop time, but it's the HBO drop time. That's fantastic. And interestingly, Ahsoka has some Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon vibes, particularly with its end credits. You're like, oh, I see what you're trying to do here. But with such atmospheric credits, put them in the start then. Put them in the beginning, quite frankly. I mean, they're wasted at the end. Think of the HBO shows. The credits very much from House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones to Succession to White Lotus. The opening credits really do set the mood. So if you have such good opening credits, use them. All right, so anyway, the problem though is even with those HBO aspirations, at its heart, Ahsoka is still an all-ages cartoon because it's a live-action extension of the Filoniverse, which means PG-13 violence and no sex. So the slower dramatic pace, with none of those adult elements to jazz things up, and a serious tone taking the place of the high energy of an all-ages cartoon like Rebels had, it's not only an adjustment, but it's a little bit of a slog, at least again in the first 2 episodes. The first 2 episodes are very slow, with Ahsoka getting her Indiana Jones on as she looks for a missing star map and how to activate it. It was very Raiders, in fact, at some points, only much slower. And speaking of slow, well, Rosario Dawson could not look better. She looks absolutely amazing. And she can sure smize, boy. Tyra Banks would be proud. But she's very good at hitting her fighting marks and looking cool while doing it. But she's just too slow in her execution. I believe I brought this up back when she first appeared on The Mandalorian, where she had the same problem. And I said back then that she needed serious fight training, and she still hasn't received it. So as a result, her opponents need to slow down as well, and that just makes the fights really weird, because you're like, why would the opponent slow down to match Ahsoka's speed instead of just taking her out, being like, what luck? This Jedi is a turtle. So while her fights look cool, they have a weird vibe to them, as I said, that they seem more like practice sessions or more like, I know they're fight choreography, but they seem like choreography instead of actual fights with any high stakes. You know, it's almost like a dance instead. A very cool dance, but not the fight that I wanted. The other big issue for the show, besides a lot of ladies and being very slow and low energy, is that if you haven't watched Rebels, I'm so glad that you guys insisted I watched Rebels, or this would be a disaster. You're going to have a hard time not only catching everything, but connecting to the show emotionally. Because the show isn't about Ahsoka. It's Rebels Season 5. No, I don't care what the title is. I mean, Ahsoka isn't even in a lot of the scenes, which is kind of good. Because at this point in her life, she doesn't have a lot of personality, which is also weird because she became famous and well-known and a fan favorite for her personality. And then she lost it. Dave Filoni wrote all the episodes for Ahsoka, and part of me wonders, now that I've seen the first two, if that was the best idea. I mean, I love Dave Filoni. You guys have turned me, and his work has turned me into a Dave Filoni believer. But every time I watch an animated episode, I pay attention to who wrote and directed it. And it's very often not Dave Filoni. So he has a very strong stable of Star Wars animation writers and directors. And maybe he should have brought some over for Ahsoka, now that I've seen the first two episodes. Dave Filoni also directs the first episode, which is close to an hour, and when you put the first two episodes together, you get a nice little movie. So there's your Tuesday night taken care of. He brings an old school Star Wars feel to the show, like really old school, like OG trilogy, 1970s feel, which is kind of cool, but then also at the same time, you're like, whew, this is very 70s. In terms of like being like a little, I don't know, like a little silly maybe. I don't know. Like I feel like maybe sometimes Star Wars recently has gotten too modern, but I feel like it's the pendulum effect. So I think Dave Filoni maybe went a little too far in the other direction. Maybe we can settle somewhere in the middle. I mean, I think Mando pretty much has gotten it right. And then Dave Filoni also brings in some other classic Star Wars elements that I don't want to spoil that have been missing from some of the more recent installments and were also kind of cool. And Filoni and his team, though, to their credit, they got the flourish. Oh, the flourish is nice here. There are a few moments in episode 1 and 2, albeit very brief, that are just so incredibly cool that I'm like, wow, there's real potential here. Filoni, as we all know, is now set to direct an upcoming Star Wars theatrical film. And quite frankly, though, having seen these two episodes, I think that while he has potential as a live-action director, he still has some ways to go. And he's no Rick Famuyiwa. I think Rick Famuyiwa maybe should have gotten the gig, and Filoni could have written and produced. Rick Famuyiwa, of course, while he directed some of the earlier Mando episodes, I think Rick Famuyiwa really leveled up with the finale, the last two episodes of season 3 for Mando, and I'm excited that he's directing the finale for Ahsoka. So far, under Filoni's directing and the other director that they brought on here, who's also done a lot of television. I can't believe that none of the Star Wars Filoni animation directors got the call here. They're probably like, we're just sitting here, we know what we're doing, and you've worked with us before, why don't you bring us in here? Like, why isn't anyone who directed Rebels working on this show? It's weird to me. Again, because it is Rebels Season 5. All right, so sometimes Ahsoka looks a little TV rather than cinematic, like the picture's a little too clear. And then also when you add to that the 70s, I think the 70s look, that's it. The 70s look only works when you have like 70s grain in the film, right? And you're like, yeah, so it's cinema. But when you have like the clear picture of today, and then they're still dressed like they're in the 70s, you're like, this is weird. And then also, you can really tell when they're using the volume, which seems to be quite a bit. I don't know if you've developed the ability to see the volume, but no, despite the larger digital frame, you can see that all the action takes place in the middle, like in a circle, because the volume is a circle. So you're like, oh, I can see the edge of where you can film, and you filled everything else with VFX, and I can see that a lot now, and it becomes very distracting. I'm wondering, do you see it? And now that I described it, does it help you to see it? But one thing that I absolutely adored about the first two episodes of Ahsoka is that it has a lot of Jedi and droids. Oh boy! And I love the Jedi, and especially after watching Rebels. To watch Kanan and Ezra fight on that show was just thrilling. It's the best Jedi fight sequences I've ever seen. So it's a little disappointing they're not here on this show. But also then to see Jedi go up against assassin droids? I did not know how much I needed this in my life. Also, assassin droids are fantastic because they not only look cool, but you can slice and dice them and still qualify as a family show. Brilliant, very smart. I'm curious how they're able to animate so many droids so convincingly for a Disney Plus show. Like, wow. But I'm not complaining. I'm having a fabulous time. Droid it up, baby. Jedis and droids. What a combo. All right, let's talk cast. As I said, Rosario Dawson makes a great figurehead for the show. But at least in the first 2 episodes, she's as closed off and distant as she has been on Mando. So she can't be the lead character because nobody wants to be around that for a long period of time. But again, she is smizing up a storm. There are a couple shots in the first episode, you'll know what I'm talking about, where I'm like, what an eye shot. Wow. But instead, our emotion for the first 2 episodes comes from Sabine Wren, brought to life by Natasha Liu Bordizzo. Bordizzo sure looks like the animated character, but when she's first introduced, it's the classic, and I really hate this, and they particularly use it for female characters, which annoys me. It's the classic, isn't this character cool because she doesn't get along with anybody? I hate that trope. It's really annoying and frustrating, and no one likes that type of person. But luckily, that quickly falls away, and in the second episode in particular, she becomes more like the Sabine Wren Rebels fans have come to know and love. I also found myself quickly coming around on Mary Elizabeth Winstead as Hera, aka General Syndulla, aka General Mom. That's right, she's still very motherly. And Filoni and Winstead say that this is a new type of feeling general. But I have to say, from Rebels to here, I never get the feeling that she has any power, because she never has any underlings. She never seems to be, she's a general, but she seems like a general in terms of nothing. Like she never seems to be commanding anything. At least in episode 2, she has some boss moments, which I appreciated. So I started, in episode 2, I was like, okay, I'm coming around on this Hera, but it's still a different Hera than the animated series because Mary Elizabeth Winstead just has a totally different vibe. Our villains don't say much, but also look cool. But Ray Stevenson's Baylan Skoll sends his female apprentice to do almost all of his work. So again, more ladies. But also again, Ivana Sokno does a really good job. She's great. It's a lot of women. David Tennant also is fantastic as Huyang. Also apparently from Clone Wars, right? I'm not familiar with his character, but I'm loving him so far here. Although he's still my second favorite humanoid droid after K2SO because I don't love Huyang's design. I think that could be a little better. You just can't top K2SO's design. I love me a snarky droid. Chopper shows up in the first 2 episodes. But that's all I want to say. All right, since The Mandalorian went on to become so entrenched in the Star Wars Filoniverse, the animation lore, it is weird to be telling yet another story in that same space without the Dins, Mando and Grogu. Oh, I love that. They're a family. Clone Wars, Rebels, Mando, The Bad Batch, and now Ahsoka. It's all part of the same story. So again, thank you to all of you who insisted I get in on this, because now I'm pretty entrenched in that story and I get it. I told you, when I was covering The Bad Batch and Mando, I was like, one day it just all clicks and you understand Star Wars. And so I'm part of the party now. But it's a small party. The Filoniverse has never had a huge audience. It has a faithful, fervent audience, but it's never been that big. So I wonder if the audience can get bigger as it continues to expand into live action. You know, I think as Mando got more into the Filoniverse, you would see some normies fade away because they were like, they didn't know what was going on. But is Ahsoka really the show to expand the audience as necessary? I think if it was truly a season 5 of Rebels with the quick pace and high energy and more excellent male characters to balance out these phenomenal female characters, I think that would help it reach the wide audience it needs to as a very expensive Disney Plus show. Like, I don't see it being an HBO-style juggernaut on social media, even with the new 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time drop. I mean, maybe with some later episodes, if there are some really big moments and some big character returns. Although again, like some of the big characters that are expected to return, Thrawn and Ezra, those are big enough, I think, to trend, but not to like explode the fan base, because it's still a small group that even knows who they are. But I think if Disney Plus continues with this and drops Loki season 2 at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, I hope that show's good. If it's as good as the first season, then I think Disney will get the results they're looking for with the nighttime drops, American time. So that's my non-spoiler review of Ahsoka, episodes 1 and 2. And again, be sure to come back this evening for my breakdowns. But share your initial thoughts down below, subscribe today, and of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.